Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Big Bad Brick, and today we're actually not reviewing a LEGO set, we're reviewing a Pantasy set. This was sent to me by Pantasy. They reached out and asked if I wanted to review something, and I'd seen this before. I've seen other people look at it, and I thought it was kind of cool. So I was like, you know what, I would be interested in taking a look at this. So here we go, we have it, we're gonna build it. I'm just kind of interested to see how the build experience is. So this particular model is their retro PC. They do have another version of this that is like a license to a specific game, but the version that we're looking at in this video on their site retails for $130. They do also sell through Amazon, where you can get this for what looks to be about like $96. Sometimes it changes, goes back and forth. So looking at the box, this is like for a building brick company. You know, this is a nice looking box. I like the box art. I think it looks cool. It's branded under their retro collection, which they do have a couple other sets that do fall into the same collection. Again, has Pantasy logo on the top of the box. Side of the box, you know, shows you an image of the model. And this is rated for ages 15 and up. Contains 1,600 plus pieces. I don't see like an actual specific exact part count on their website or marketing information for this. So the unboxing was relatively similar to a standard LEGO unboxing. It has a bunch of numbered bags. It's interesting that the bags actually are Pantasy branded. There's a small bag of non-brick components, which includes a cool mouse pad as well as the like wires, which are the same as those like flexible pneumatic tube pieces. There's two 16 by 16 plates that are not included as part of the numbered bags, and then there's the instruction booklet, which flip through. It looks basically at first glance like something you'd get out of Studio or LDD. Not quite the same like style of rendering as LEGO does in their instructions. There were a couple weird things about the build. Specifically, there were bags where you get two different colors of parts that are very similar looking, so they look almost identical in instructions. This is something that LEGO would avoid doing. Also, you don't get as many extra pieces. There's a couple weird ones, but for the most part, it's like one extra part per bag. They're a little stingier on that than LEGO is. There was also this weird like plastic pellet that looks like it had broken off of a part, but it didn't, so I don't really know what that was doing in there. Other than that, the build experience was pretty straightforward. There were a couple interesting parts that LEGO doesn't make, like this bracket that is like a plate with a stud on the side, but just the stud. They also have a 1x2 plate with studs on both sides, which I've seen other brands do, but LEGO still hasn't. Oh, and how can I forget about the cool pink brick separator, which is printed, which is interesting. And there were also a couple places where you would have to put stickers over multiple parts, which LEGO doesn't do. They were an interesting style of sticker. One was kind of similar to how LEGO does their stickers. The other one was like almost vinyl sheet that goes across the whole screen for the computer to make up the Minesweeper thing that was a lot thicker than a normal sticker. And here's the full thing completely assembled. First glance and first impressions based on the building experience, I do think it's not quite as polished as, you know, your average LEGO set, but I do think that it's a pretty, like, solid attempt, and compared to just a random mock from the internet, the instructions are way more followable than that would be. There are just a few little quirks here and there that I was like, that was a little weird. But again, for the most part, it was pretty straightforward. I'm going to start by looking at the little peripheral accessories, your keyboard and mouse, because those are a little annoying to move around. One thing that I'll point out is, unless you leave it out for a while, the mouse will like want to move around because this won't be super flexible and to the exact point you want it to be at, just the cord. So you have to do a little bit of manipulating with that. And the other thing is the mouse pad, which is kind of cool that they include a mouse pad for it. This is like a special piece that is basically a real mouse pad, just a little smaller than it would be to scale with this. Blue screen of death mouse pad. It's kind of cool. But yeah, interesting part. I don't know. Thought that was kind of a cool thing, but again, it doesn't come perfectly flat, so it is like kind of floating up a little bit, and because it's floating up a little bit, the mouse doesn't want to completely stay on there. The mouse is pretty small. Again, here's my hand for scale. That is way like smaller than a normal mouse would be, but overall relative shape, is there. You got suggestions of 2 buttons even by using 2 separate parts. I don't know. It's fine. It does connect to the back by a cord. I'll show you how all the cord connections get done in a second, but shifting over to the keyboard, This is more impressive. Again, it is, not one-to-one scale, as you can tell. But all of these things on here, all these decorations, every single one of those is a print. So there's a lot of printed pieces here. Obviously, some of them, like, you're gonna have like a 1x6 tile with all of QWERTY on it, but like, and these are 1x2s. But then there's some that are 1x1s. So like, it's a lot of different little prints there, and it works out pretty well, generally speaking. There are a couple spots where the printing seems to be like off register a little bit. Like, you'll notice with the QWERTY keys specifically, the letters are very close to the line separating the keys versus on all the other ones it's centered. The arrows here, they're not like, these two aren't perfectly lined up. There's a couple other places where like things don't line up as perfectly as maybe you'd want them to, but again, for being all printed, it looks pretty good. And again, here's another one. The shift keys are not like completely in line with each other, but again, for the most part, it is pretty well done. It does even use these parts on the bottom to basically get the keyboard to rest at an angle that it would normally be at. I don't think this is supposed to represent a specific model of keyboard, but again, it does look vintage PC type, so I think it's cool. And the other thing is, the chords as well do have a little symbol printed on them for both the mouse and the keyboard, and there are different colors as well, so you know where they line up, which I believe the colors are somewhat accurate to what they would have been. So the set isn't designed to be one specific model of computer, but it is generally based on the IBM PC 330, which from my brief research was not like the first IBM computer, but it was like one of those earlier generations of it. The model that we have here does have a computer monitor, which like this looks pretty recognizable just as, a retro PC. And, just based on the set name, retro PC, I think first glance, this looks pretty right. I do want to start at the back here, actually. As you saw, this cord, you have the monitor kind of outlet, basically. I think I did pull off these two studs are supposed to already be attached in there, but basically you're supposed to be able to just plug the monitor in like you would to a normal computer. Down here, you also have ports for your keyboard and your mouse, which I'll plug in here so you can see how it looks all plugged up, but we're gonna remove them afterwards so we can actually like see things. But yeah, here's the back. You can see you've got the outlet for the fan, as well as all of your ports over here. I don't know exactly what every other port is, but again, from the back, I think it looks pretty good. The other thing that you do have back here is a sticker, which everything on the set, instead of being licensed to specific computer part manufacturers, they're all just Pantasy branded, which is kind of cool. But I think that this does look like pretty reasonable at first glance. It's kind of the same sort of thing that LEGO did with the TV that's included with the NES set, where they had their own like LEGO branded information and warning stickers and stuff. All right, and for the sake of actually being able to kind of look at things, I've removed all of the accessories. Back here, you do have, that's the outlet for the monitor cable, which there's a print in there that's also used down here. I do really like that screw print as well. I think that that's cool that they use around to screw in the fans and to screw in this area over here. You can remove the monitor from the like actual computer itself. Before we do that completely, though, I do want to look at the function of the monitor. And again, there's 4 studs there that basically allow you to place that on. And there is a turntable in there that allows this to swivel 360 degrees. This front here is actually a like cardstock papery piece, which has a desktop background. It's not a perfect representation of Windows. It's not licensed or anything, but it does have your computer, your briefcase, internet, and recycle bin. And the other thing that's cool about this is you can take this off and you can flip it around to get a BIOS prompt, and you can close that up, And there you go. So it's reversible. You got two different screen options. But you might have seen in there's actually a third option, which has Minesweeper on it. And there's a function built into this where you can pull this out and it'll flip that over. And I'll be honest, that function doesn't really do anything for me. Like, I don't know, it does, it's pretty much like the opposite of the way you would expect it to work. You'd think that if you push this in, it'll flip that over. And you could swap the tiles around and make it work that way if you wanted to, but I did it how it was done in the instructions. And this here is all one sticker across all of the parts that make up this, like, screen. I don't know, it's like, I feel like they did put some amount of design effort into this, but, like, it's not a really polished play feature. This isn't something that I would go and show everyone who comes over, like, yeah, look, you have to see how this function works. I don't know. This itself doesn't really do anything for me, and I don't think it adds that much value personally. I think it was a little bit of a miss. I do respect what they were going for here, and I think it's cool that they put Minesweeper on here, but I wish that there was some other way that they could have figured out how to make, like, an actual more functioning Minesweeper game. Even if it was just like this was all brick built with tiles and you could place on, you know, numbered tiles, so you could make your own, like, Minesweeper game that doesn't actually do anything. I feel like that would have added more value to me than whatever this is. The one thing I do want to point out, though, is that you do have controls for your monitor on the bottom, as well as a power button for it. I think that's cool, and there's a Pantasy brick here. Just looking around the side, studs on the side construction. Again, it's like, you got stuff where things won't line up perfectly around the sides. I don't think that most of that bothers me, but, like, I feel like the overall design math of making everything line up isn't quite as precise as it would be on, like, some other more advanced models, but I do think this is a very solid attempt. I do think where this set gets really interesting, though, is when we open up the computer itself. Be able to open it up and see all of the components inside, which you can actually do here. I think this is probably the coolest thing about this model. This whole, like, cover comes off. I don't know off the top of my head if this is how IBM computers came apart, so I apologize for not having that knowledge. But the fact that you can take out all of these components is pretty cool. So this here is the power supply, which we can just pull out as such. There's no cables inside here. Again, maybe there weren't cables in, like, IBM computers, but power supply with the fan on it, which is cool. So let's just see. I don't know if you can really see it through here. Now, yeah, even with the cover off, you can't really see through this fan zone into where the fan would be, even though there is a clear panel there. But, you know, again, it's pretty cool to have your power supply removable. This stuff here we'll look at in a second, but we do also have this motherboard, which you can remove if you take off these Technic pins, which do lock it in place, but I'm going to take that out to show it to you closer. So this here is the motherboard, where you have your expansion slot here where they add the video card in, which, again, this has a ton of exclusive prints. Well, I don't know about exclusive, but a ton of prints on it that, you know, basically, I do like these, like, resistor capacitor, I think they're capacitors, actually, print that's used a bunch in the set, as well as all of these other components. I don't know what every single specific thing on here is supposed to be. I think that's probably a resistor, and these are capacitors, and again, I don't know what all the rest of it is, but again, looks pretty good. And even more here, as well as you do have this heatsink, which you can remove, and you have the CPU underneath. You can just lock that in place, which is cool. Again, you know, cool prints here, and this does, like, just slide into place, but it fits pretty securely and works well. And to put this back inside of the actual computer, all you do is line this up and place that down there. You could even, I guess, just leave it like this, but they do give you these Technic bushings to lock it into place. And just like that, there you go. Just looking here at the front of the model, you'd have two functions over here, which I'll show you in a second, but you'd have a power button and then a reset button, and then I guess this is if your mouse is connected, and then brightness or monitor on, maybe. I don't know exactly what those buttons mean. But the one thing I do want to say, just design-wise from the outside, this curved section, in all of the, like, research I did looking up a specific model of IBM computers, I couldn't find one that had like a curved section over here. I feel like that's a little bit weird accuracy-wise. But over here, we do have a couple of features. So there's two little functions here we have are actually both wrapped up in this little section, which is kind of modular. So you do have this floppy disk drive, which is actually pretty cool. You do have a sticker across multiple parts here, but I think this is a good look. I don't know. This thing makes me kind of happy. And again, for anyone who was not old enough, this is what the save symbol is based on, because you'd save it to a floppy disk. But you can push it in, and then basically this button will eject it. And it's a really simple feature. It's nothing like crazy, but it's cool, and I'm glad that they included that. Yeah, works well. This one here is a little bit weirder because it only opens up that much, and then you have to pull it out the rest of the way by hand. But you have a little CD in here, which can be removed completely. Yep, and fits in there well, and you can just close it back up. So it works, but I wish that it got you at least, like, I wish that it opened up this far on its own without you having to pull it out. But again, you can put these back here and assemble everything, and just like that, everything is back together. But yeah, this here is everything included in the set, and I think that, just volume of stuff wise, for $130, I think this is pretty reasonable actually. It's not reasonable to the point where, wow, this is such a stellar deal at retail price. I don't think I would go that far, but I think that it's like fair. Anyway, I do think that the most interesting thing about this is just the modularity of all the components and how, you can put the whole thing together. Like, I do think this is probably where you'll get the most value out of this particular set. Finished model too, I think, looks pretty good on display. But yeah, overall impressions, I think that this was a pretty interesting to build model. I definitely enjoyed it from that aspect. Is this like a absolute must-buy building toy set of all time? No, but I was impressed. I think that it definitely like holds up to the initial image. If you like see this and you're like, oh, that would look pretty cool to display somewhere, I think that you'll be pretty happy with your purchase. If you wanted something that is as crazy revolutionary as that Lego NES, this is not quite there, but I do think that this would pair well in like a retro. Yeah, overall, I was pleasantly surprised by this. And again, thank you to Pantasy for sending this to me to take a look at. If you guys are interested in picking one up, there is a link in the description that does have a code that will get you 10% off your purchase on this. So, again, I make it a little bit more tempting for you guys. And I do get a little kickback from anyone who buys using that link. So, again, thank you in advance for taking a look. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little review. Let me know if you guys thought this was interesting. If you guys have ever tried a Pantasy product before, let me know what your thoughts on it were. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys all next time. Bye, everyone.